I wanted to make a short video about film, well, blockbusters specifically. I'd seen a recent takedown of Jurassic World Rebirth by Mark Kermode, and he made a point about how it's no longer exciting, and how the shock and awe of the original Jurassic Park movie, which was pretty groundbreaking at the time, and everybody sort of looked at it and thought, oh, we can do that now, has gone. And what's replaced it, really, has been an over-reliance on precisely those effects, and no story to back it up, or no story that anybody really wants to invest in beyond looking at the visuals. And it's a very curious development, because for around 30 years now, large monsters and villains beating three shades of whatever out of each other in CGI has been the mainstay of the blockbuster movie franchise, the industry. If not the movie industry, full stop, makes most of its money off it. But at no point is there an acceptance that despite the effects improving, the stories haven't, and that it's now subject to the law of diminishing returns. Now, I wanted to not necessarily counter this, but to actually argue in the favour of that argument. Because the other thing that's happened recently is that after years of protesting and clamouring for it, campaigning, George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy and those involved in the origins of Star Wars released into the world the original print of Star Wars from 1977. I went to see it with my dad, I think, when I was very small. I can barely remember it by the time it hit British television in 1982, I think, where I put it on tape and watched it over and over again until I could remember every single advert in the ad breaks and where the ad breaks were. Even now, when I watch it, I still expect the ad breaks to happen there. But getting back to the point, the resulting reaction to that was, even from the likes of the Telegraph, this looks terribly cheap and old-fashioned and poor. And then you have to think to yourself, well, it's 47 years ago, or whatever it is, and that they were inventing a lot of this technology on the hoof, driving your pickup past the model of the Death Star trenches and setting off little pyrotechnics in full daylight. I mean, it's the only way they could do it. So what resulted from that was this sense of, my childhood has been taken away from me. It wasn't what I thought it was. But in fact, it always was. What you were remembering has been enhanced by memory. I'm quite a big Doctor Who fan. I don't think anybody here would be surprised by that, but back in the 1980s, the Doctor Who producer throughout that period, whether he wanted to be or not sometimes, was a gentleman called John Nathan Turner, also the show's first gay producer, who is strangely celebrated in the name of a bus in Brighton, which shows you the overlap between those two minority groups. And he appeared in 1987 on one of those talkback programs, a kind of points of view program, where he was grilled by what would now be the senior generation of fans on the then current series, and amongst those fans was future showrunner Chris Chibnall. who was very critical. And Nathan Turner's response was very interesting. The show back then never, or hardly ever, got repeated. And so he had access to the archive that virtually nobody else in British broadcasting seemed to have. And having seen them, he commented, "I think sometimes the memory cheats." And what he meant by that, of course, is that our childhood memories don't stack up in the light of reality when you've grown up. You see it in a completely different way. And this is the point. Are we misremembering all these things? Because I remember an episode, 1982, where a character, played by actor Philip Locke, who is meant to be a Greek philosopher, suddenly opens his shirt to reveal he's actually now a machine, and then takes his face off like it's a mask. In fact, it's just a dummy head, and they lift the face part up. But in my childhood, of course, it looked utterly real. So when I saw it on VHS years later, I thought, that's not right. That's not what I remember. And this is the trouble now, you see. In the world of CGI, we've got so used to these things that, it doesn't mean anything anymore. And we hanker after the days, the simple days, and politics all around us is about that as well now. When, the scares were real scares and things were real. But it's not the effects that have made the difference. It's the storytelling that's made the difference. And we really need to get back to that. There's a reason why things like Oppenheimer and Barbie, partnered up in the theatres, were hits. Because they were considered unusual. Particularly Barbie, I would have thought, which you could imagine them doing in the 1980s. A totally different cast and totally different production values compared to now, but the same vibe, perhaps. Perhaps we need to reconsider whether we're looking back just for the sake of looking back, or because we're actually seeking something more substantial than we're being given. I think that's just the same in every part of life now, isn't it?